Well, welcome to our final hour of the morning. It's going to be working outdoors in Maine, which I think is a great way to live one's life is working outdoors in Maine. And joining us are two of our distinguished guests today, Judy Camuso, who is Commissioner of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife, and Dana Bullen, who is President of Sunday River Ski Area. And joining me from the masthead Maine newspapers, specifically more the Central Maine newspapers, is 2019 Maine Sports Writer of the Year, Travis Lasarchik. And I should, I guess, mention to this group that I'm Bill Green, the Executive Director of the Maine Sports Hall of Fame. So, Judy, let's start with you. Historically, there weren't a lot of, well, probably there were, I don't know, but you're the first woman commissioner of inland fisheries and wildlife. And I think in Maine, being commissioner of inland fisheries and wildlife is a big deal. How'd you get the job, and how are you settling in now after a couple of years, and what are your perspectives of where your life has taken you?
Yeah, thanks, Bill, and thanks for having me. Yes, I am the first woman to hold this position. In this field I'm in is traditionally pretty male dominated, so it's definitely quite an honor to be here. I started with the agency back in 2007 as a regional biologist. Prior to that, I worked for Maine Audubon as a biologist there as well. So I've been a wildlife biologist my whole career. I moved over to the agency in 07 looking for just a little change and some new adventures, I guess, a little more field focused. And I worked in Southern Maine for about 7 years, and I moved to our Augusta office in 2013, and I was quickly promoted to wildlife director in 2013, and I was the first woman to have that position as well. And then when Governor Mills was elected, I'd always wanted to be commissioner, so I applied and I got the job. So it is an appointment.
You did apply. You applied for that job.
Yeah, I mean, you're sort of encouraged to apply, so you kind of have to have some people lobbying for you in the background, but you do have to still apply, and you go through an interview process, and she did end up nominating me, and then I was confirmed by the legislature. So it's been quite a whirlwind career for me so far, and I mean, it's a great opportunity. There's so many great things in the state of Maine, and for me, I know we have the best agency in the state. We oversee stuff that people are really thrilled to be participating with, and most everybody we interact with are happy, and we're providing a great service for the public. So it's a great agency and a great place to be. I'm having a ton of fun, and I think we're making some really good changes in how we do business and how we interact and connect with people, and bringing more people into these activities. So so far, I'm pretty happy with things.
That's great.
Yeah.
Now, Dana, are you a native of Farmington, and you went to Mount Blue and UMF?
I actually am a native of New Sharon, right next to Farmington, and went to Mount Blue High School and then finished up my college career at UMF.
I know that Dana has been very active in trying to build the community and give something back to skiing, give something back to young Mainers. And one of the interesting things that you've done is help develop a program at UMF to train people who want to work outdoors.
UMF has always had a ski industries program, and a number of years ago, several of the professors and the staff there led a charge on creating ORBA, Outdoor Recreational Business Administration. And that expanded the ski industry program to folks that can work in the outdoor industries in general, whether that's rafting, whether that's the ski industry, golf, and other places. And it has a number of kids in it, and both Sunday River and Sugarloaf have worked very closely with them. They still have a ski industry specialized program in it, and we've had a number of young folks come through the program here at Sunday River and at Sugarloaf, our sister resort.
Well, and joining us is Travis Lasarchik, the 2019 Maine Sports Writer of the Year. Travis, I know you have some questions for everyone.
Thank you, Bill, and good morning, everybody. I'll start this off with just a question for either Dana or Judy. How much of your job do you actually get to spend outside, and how much of it is kind of stuck behind a desk? I know the one thing I really love about my job is I'm not stuck behind a desk too much.
Well, I'll answer that quickly. I'll say I can spend as much time outside as my schedule allows. So I get invited to do a lot of things. This weekend, I'm going up to the Travis Mills Foundation to do a veterans ice fishing, a virtual ice fishing event there. And on Sunday, I'm going up to Dover Foxcroft to with like the Outdoor Women's Brand, and we're going to do a snowshoe hike through the woods. So I spend a lot of time outside. I personally make sure that I keep that as a priority for myself. I ice fish a lot. I fish most every weekend. But as far as the Monday to Friday, I probably am at my desk more than I might like to be. During the non-legislative session, I get out a little more and I try to get out to all of the regional offices and get out on some of our programs, our Bears End visits, and go out with the moose biologist, that sort of thing. So it's important for me to keep that kind of fresh feeling of why I got into this in the first place.
So Travis, for
How about
me, skiing and golf is part of the job. And I skied yesterday morning. I try to ski a lot. I try to play golf 3 or 4 times a week. It really gives us a perspective on what's going on. We're out there with the guests and we can talk to the guests. And when I'm not in the resort, I enjoy the world that Judy oversees, fishing and hunting in Maine. We live in an incredible state.
We have a question from Ethan Lewis, and this is for Judy. What goes into monitoring fish and wildlife, and how closely do you work with the game wardens?
Great. So yeah, I oversee the game wardens. So I work work directly with the colonel most every day, and I work with many of the game wardens, all day in and day out. We have a number of programs of biological staff. So our agency is made up primarily of fisheries staff, wildlife staff, and then warden service. The fisheries and wildlife biologists basically do all kinds of data collection. We have a moose project, black bear project, butterfly project, bird atlas. Likewise, the fishery staff do all kinds of fish census, creel census. They do all kinds of invasive species monitoring. And so we have a staff of about 300 total. About 100 of those are biologists that just day in and day out do data monitoring, analysis, population models, all that kind of thing. And then we have another real strong contingent warden service who their job is to enforce the laws and make sure that people are adhering to the rules and regulations we have to protect our natural resources. So I work with all of the staff quite regularly. Great question.
Dana, last spring,
I do.
almost a year now,
Go ahead,
everything
Travis.
got shut down. What was it like in your industry where, guests are the reason to be open, and what was it like getting things reopened with golf and now skiing?
So it probably was the most challenging time in my 33-year career in the ski industry. We went from a wide open ski resort and 1,400 team members to about 25 of us. The entire resort shut down very, very quickly. We obviously disappointed a number of guests who had vacations booked. We tried to do everything we could to support our community, to support what we could with the team members that weren't here. And then through working with the state, our governor was very gracious with her team's time and spending time with us. We were able to open golf last summer. We didn't have any weddings, which is a very typically busy piece of our summer times. And as we got into skiing, as I look out my window and look at all the skiers, other than the fact that everybody's socially distanced in ski lines to get on the lifts, and they have masks on, we look like we're a pretty normal operation now. Food and beverage is extremely restricted. People are using their cars as base lodges now instead of our base lodges. But the skiing part and the being outdoor part is the most important part of what we do, and we're able to make that happen.
I thought it was great that going outdoors was the healthiest thing people could do. It was wonderful for the outdoor community. I'm sorry, Travis, go ahead.
No, it's okay, Bill. For either of you, Dana or Judy, how have you seen your job change over the years?
Do you mean just this past year, or
Well, just in general. I mean, I imagine technologies, even in a place like Fish and Game, has
Yeah.
kind of made things different.
Sure. I mean, So one of the big changes, of course, has been social media and our ability to connect with a much wider group of people instantaneously and for a lot less money. So we had a couple posts last week. We had a free fishing week, so we offered a free fishing license for anybody in the state for over February vacation week. And we had several of our posts that had 120, 130,000 people view them, which historically for us to get that kind of exposure would have been really costly. So, I mean, technology's changed everything from in the past when we would be monitoring individual animals, you would go out and you'd have like a radio collar on them and you'd have this handheld antenna and it would take hours to try and, hone in on where the animal is. Now that stuff satellite is projected to a cell phone. We get their GPS locations twice a day. So there's been huge technological changes and advances that have made our lives quite a bit easier. And so, I mean, I think those are probably some of the biggest changes.
How about you, Dana?
Travis, when you look at the ski industry, 33 years ago, I started in the rental shop at Sugarloaf as a rental tech. And so there have been a number of changes, and I've had a number of different positions throughout both resorts moving up to this one. So those have changed. The biggest change for me is as my position grew, it became more about supporting other people, serving other people. My job became more about taking care of everybody. But the one thing that's never changed is our job, whether I was in the rental shop or whether I was in marketing or in my role today, is our job is to connect people to the outdoors, to make sure they have a great time with us, and that's always stayed consistent.
Dana, we have the same job. What I say all the time is our job is to connect people outdoors safely and successfully.
Absolutely.
What kind of an education is required to get into your field, and how accessible are jobs in your field? And I want to point out to the students that, as Judy said, she's got an administration, but she's got a game warden side, which is enforcing wildlife law and some other things, and she has a biology side, and that's an interesting career path too that seems to be very popular in colleges these days. But Judy, what advice do you have for someone who's interested in working outside in Maine?
Yeah, well, first of all, it's a great job if you want to be outside. And we are seeing now a shift in college graduates, and so that now almost 50% or more of, at least in the state of Maine, of students in fisheries and wildlife degrees are women. And so that's really encouraging. It's not quite the same in the law enforcement programs, but it is increasing. So most of our biologists have a master's degree, and many of them actually have a PhD. So it's a pretty competitive field. I would say if folks are interested in a career in fish or wildlife, whether it be law enforcement or the biological side, or even some of our education and communication opportunities, I think a broad background and get experience with a lot of different sort of avenues or areas of different species, fish and wildlife, or mammals and birds, so that you have kind of a broad base of skills. Mostly what we do as biologists is that we do a lot of data management or, collecting data, but mostly we deal with the public. And so that's the thing that a lot of people miss out on, is you need to have really good communication, public relations skills. Those are really important things for both fishery staff, wildlife staff, and warden service. And so I encourage anyone that is interested in this field to spend as much time as they can outside, and also work on their public speaking, public interaction, public relations, and communication skills.
Dana, how do you get a job in the ski industry?
Show up and be passionate about it, and be the person that always says yes to everything. The opportunities that I've had in the ski industry is because I was always willing to do. In the ski industry, there's always extra jobs, or there's always extra work, whether that's setting up for concerts, or whether that's working special events, or dressing as Santa Claus as I used to. But always being willing to. I'm an educator by college training. I got a teaching degree, and as my career has grown, I use that teaching and coaching that I learned from that more and more. But I think what's really important is if you're going to spend half your waking hours for the rest of your life working, find what you're passionate about and then stick with it and make sure you're always willing to adapt and change as needed.
And you, obviously, but you find the ski business fun, right?
Love every minute of it. I have never had a day in the 33 years where I have not been excited to come to work. I've raised a family in it. Both my kids are skiers, ski racers, and they loved it. But when your primary mission is providing people fun, it's pretty easy to have a good time.
Judy, that's an interesting question that sometimes comes up among my game warden friends. I mean, hunters are having fun, and then here comes the warden and spoils your fun. How does your department deal with, that kind of situation where, you've got to check on people here and there and make sure that the fun is all above board?
For sure. I mean, Warden Service is charged with protecting our fish and wildlife resources, and so as well as keeping the public safe. But so they do have a difficult job at times, and they are interacting with people who, they are carrying many of them are carrying a firearm. So it's I think at times a stressful job for folks, but most of our game wardens are really likable, friendly. They are trying to help people do the right thing. They use good judgment. We don't get into too many sticky situations. We get plenty of complaints and people who think that they should not have gotten a ticket when in fact they
Should not have a gun?
What's that?
Oh, should not have gotten a ticket.
No, they should have gotten a ticket. But
I see.
we say the same for speeding and other things. But yeah, no, it's definitely a challenging position. But for a game warden, I mean, they really spend almost every single day outside. And the other nice thing about these jobs is that it changes from season to season. So you're not doing the same thing every day. In the spring, you're working on fisheries or boating issues or ice fishing, and in the summer you're working on boating, in the fall hunting. And so it changes every season what you're doing and where you're going. And that's true for the fisheries, wildlife, and warden service. All of our jobs kind of change seasonally, and it keeps it fresh and interesting, and keeps you challenged and learning.
Well, and I'll do my spiel now, but I think it's fair to say that the big time sporting opportunity in Maine is outdoors. I mean, we have world-class skiing, we have world-class hunting and fishing opportunities, we have the Allagash Wilderness Waterway, we have the Appalachian Trail, we have the white water of the Atlantic Ocean, we have it all. We have we have just everything you can imagine, and people do come save their money all year, come from all over the world to come here for their vacation and to participate in some of the stuff that you have the opportunity of participating in, you and Dana, every day. And Mainers shouldn't forget that, and I'll even rant a little bit more. Not only is it available to us, it's part of us whether we participate or not. A lot of people, something will come up about the Allagash, and numbers are down on the Allagash, and I'll ask you about that in a minute. Not that, but they'll fight about it passionately because it's kind of part of the soul of growing up in Maine. We've got the Allagash, we need to protect it, or Baxter State Park or something like that. But I have noticed in the outdoor recreation field before I retired from TV, vacations were getting shorter. One industry I'll point out, the schooner industry, used to be a week-long schooner thing. Well, now it's 3 days, or now it's overnight because people want to go, get on the boat, go over to North Haven, have a lobster, come back, buy a t-shirt, and then go to the next thing. But but fewer people have less time to participate at length in the field. How is that affecting your job? We'll start with Judy because she's on my screen, and go to Dana.
Sure. So definitely, Bill, we've seen a change in the number of days that people are spending outdoors, or the number of days in a row that they're spending. They're actually, Maine residents are typically spending as many days, it's just not kind of on vacations, or not for 10 days at a time. The pandemic has changed that quite a bit, and a lot of people who weren't as comfortable in the outdoors or hadn't spent as much time in the outdoors really, they started in the backyards and then the neighborhood parks, and then they expanded out. And so we've seen just tremendous increase in participation in the outdoors in the past 11 months. And I think all of us have been to trailheads or wildlife management areas, state parks, where you get there at 7 or 8 in the morning and the parking lot's full, because it's just that people are it's the place to go where you can be safe. And so I think one of our challenges as outdoor enthusiasts is to make sure that those people who are new to the outdoors this past year have a good experience, that they fall in love with it, and that they keep doing it. I personally believe that that people will protect what they're passionate about. So the more people we get outside successfully, the better we're all going to be. And you're right, people regularly, they'll talk about their park or Baxter's. I sit on the Baxter Park Authority, so people often reach out to me about Baxter passionate views, but they maybe haven't been to Baxter since they were a little kid 20, 30 years ago, but they are passionate about those resources. And I believe the more people we can instill that passion in, the better. And for the first time in about 10 years, both our hunting and fishing participation rates were up this year by almost like 8 to 10%, which is a huge increase, given that relatively to other states, to our population, Mainers participate in the outdoors at I think we ranked third in the country, I think. So we're doing pretty well.
One of the problems, I grew up, my dad was a railroad brakeman and my mother was a housewife. I didn't have access to the outdoors. We had a camp. We did a little trash fishing down at Jacob Buck Pond in Bucksport, but I didn't have access to skiing. I didn't have access to real hunting and real fishing. I didn't have access to very much. What would you two, and Dana, I'll go to you this time first. What would you like to see happening in our schools to bring access to outdoor opportunities for our kids who are watching?
Yeah, I think, Bill, as you look at what we try to do here at Sunday River and connect younger people to skiing, we have a number of programs. We bring all the surrounding districts in throughout the winter, and they get to ski 5 weeks in a row. We do that with 3 different districts that are here. We have a program at Sunday River that's been in place for more than 20 years. That when there's a snow day, every student that is within driving distance of Sunday River gets a free rental and a free lift ticket to come during snow days, and we have significant numbers of those. We also have a ski club here that makes sure that every young person that wants to be involved in skiing and ski racing has some amount of access to it, and we support their efforts as well. The one thing that I always was sensitive to growing up in Farmington and skiing at Tickham is you'd always see those cars going up to Saddleback or to Sugarloaf, and since I've been in this job, I've always wanted to make sure that the kids that saw cars coming here had the opportunity to be part of that group if that's what they wanted to do. So we've expanded those programs.
Jude, I have a question. Hunting safety is obviously extremely important, and hunting statistically is a very safe sport, at least compared to back in the 70s. One of the things that's contributed to that safety is Blaze Orange, but another is hunter safety courses. Conversely, a hunter safety course kind of works as a block towards getting somebody into the outdoors. I could take a guy from the office, sit him on a stump with a 30-30 and say, don't shoot anything that way, and he becomes a hunter the first day without having to have committed to a program. And I guess they're online now, but you know what I mean? How do we get people over the hump and get them into the field hunting and fishing wise?
Yeah, it's a great question, Bill. So this year we actually instituted in September a fully online class, so you could get your hunter certification entirely online. In the past, you've always had to dedicate at least like a half of a day to a skills assessment in the field, and those are generally on a weekend. From September through December, we had over 7,000 people take that Hunter Ed online class. And in a given year, we usually process about 3,500 people. So we recognize that that was absolutely a barrier for folks. And of those people that took Hunter Ed online, 37% were women. And the consistent feedback was, this is so much more comfortable for me. This fits my schedule so much better. A lot of these women were young women with children that just could not make the time commitment to do that in person. class, and also really weren't comfortable going to some of the places where those courses were offered. And so we're really trying to break down those barriers, in as well as we are now offering what we call a whole series of next step programs. So you got your license to hunt, but that doesn't necessarily mean you know how to track a deer or how to call in a turkey, how to set up a tree stand. So we have a whole bunch of programs designed to help people who were new to these activities so that they can be successful, safe, and have a good experience. We also offer an apprentice license, so people can just get an apprentice license. That means that you can go out and hunt. You just have to be in the presence of somebody who has a hunting license. So there's a couple options for people that are new. If you want to go with an experienced hunter, you can get an apprentice license. If you want to take the class, you can take it fully online. You can also take it in person or do a, sort of a half and half program, but we're trying to accommodate all the various learning styles and preferences, and, really people that are younger than me, which is most people, they're so comfortable learning online, and they YouTube and Google everything. And so this just is a natural progression for our hunter safety program. And I think now when we moved over, I think we were like the 30th state that had a fully online. And I think since then, almost every single state in the country now has the same very consistent online program, still focused on safety, making sure people get out, and that they are, just aware of their surroundings, and talking about landowner relations and all the kind of core elements that we have in the traditional program, but just online now.
Judy, to follow up on that, Ethan has a question. How old do you have to be to take the hunter safety course?
You don't have to take it until you're 6. You can't take the fully online one, I think, until you're 18, but you don't have to take it until you're 16. So up until 16, you would generally, a junior resident, a junior hunter can go out with their parent or whatever. And then after that, once you get your adult license, you do have to take the online. You have to take a hunter safety class after 16.
Thank you. And Dana, Ethan has another question for you. He must like the bumps. What's the freestyle conditions like at Sunday River?
Good. We keep getting 2 to 3 inches of snow every 3 or 4 days, and that makes for great bumps. And T72, which is our terrain park, is wide open with 30 to 60 foot jumps in there as well. Judy, I wanted to add to your apprentice program. I don't know how long that's been in existence, but I took my daughter's adult boyfriend out last year under that program, and he got a turkey the first day. It's a wonderful way to introduce people to the outdoors that I don't think existed a number of years ago.
Yep. No, it's a great program. Yeah, it really is. Mm-hmm. Took the governor out last year, actually.
Awesome.
Turkey hunting?
We went grouse hunting. Yeah.
Just as a historic side note, I think the last person to be governor of Maine who shot a deer was Ed Muskie.
Oh.
I actually did a little research on that. I worry about hunting going away. It's a wonderful part of life and part of the state of Maine. And so I think Muskie was the last Maine governor.
Well, I'll see if I can get Governor Mills up next fall.
They're out there.
He's pretty avid outdoor person.
Dana, those after school programs are great. What about funding for kids who want to get in the outdoors? It's a big jump to get involved in an outdoor sport, I think.
Really a number of ways that people can get involved. There are ski swaps in smaller communities, including Bethel, including Farmington, Carrabassett Valley. Those ski swaps are an incredible way. The other thing is the ski club here at Sunday River takes care of a number of local kids that want to be part of our programming that wouldn't necessarily be able to afford it. I'll also tell you, Bill, growing up in Maine, I've got a soft spot for this. So an email to dana@sundayriver.com with somebody in need of skis. We tend to have things floating around here in the used equipment department that I'd love to share with people. One
thing that's happening in sporting camps, I know, is they've become more family oriented and more 4 seasons. Mm-hmm. You go, they're trying to stretch those seasons as much as they can. And Sunday River is an example of a sporting business that's certainly done that. It's 365 days a year. Tell me a little bit about your business and perhaps job and work opportunities for kids and things that, my daughter got married at Sunday River on June. I should know the date of this. Oh my goodness. It was one of the longest, oh my goodness, June 18th, I think. It was a late sunset. Um, so I know you're in the four-season business.
We are. Conferences in the summer, weddings in the summer, golf in the summer. In the other thing that we're finding, Bill, is that people just want to be outdoors. So you listen to Judy talk about hiking and the participation that's been going on with that. We've seen that. The other phenomenon we've seen is this work from home, people working remotely. We've had a number of families who have moved from their residence in Massachusetts to the Sunday River region permanently, moved into their second homes because they can be outdoors here. And so the more of that happens, the more successful we're going to be at building an outdoor business.
Well, my crazy idea for physical education wouldn't be, I have a friend from Milo, and he jokes that actually he's nice, from Howland, excuse me. And he jokes that, he was the center on their basketball team. How tall are you? He says 5'9", and we make a big thing out of the tournaments, and the tournaments are wonderful, but we can't dunk, But in terms of outdoor opportunity, we've got great stuff. And I have this dream of physical education that would start with a personal fitness program. You learn to eat right and train and have some exercise in your life every day. And then rather than playing kickball in gym, you might learn to read a map. You might learn to paddle a canoe. You might go on an overnight hike or two, or just do some camping out behind school just to get you started in the outdoors so that you feel a little bit more comfortable. What do you think of my meaningful phys ed program, Judy, and how are we going to do that?
I love it, Bill. I actually wrote about it like a year or two ago about a opt outside every day. And for folks is to commit to spending 20 or 30 minutes every day outside. And I acknowledge that even myself as commissioner sometimes would struggle to get myself outside. And I know I was having like a really bad day here one day, and one of my coworkers was like, come on, you need to get outside. And I'm like, I can't, I don't have time. And he's like, let's go. And we just went and walked outside on one of the local trails for like 20 minutes. And it's a total mind shift. It just calms you down. Your pace, your blood pressure, everything just sort of calms and settles. And so I think it's a great idea. And I encourage people to get outside every day. We are working on a lot of the programs that you mentioned, trying to work with the schools to get more opportunities for kids to get outside on a regular basis and help them feel safe and get more comfortable doing those things outside. There's a lot of folks in the state of Maine, believe it or not, that don't know how to read a map or don't know how to find the nearest trail or what they need to take when they're going outside. So we're sort of moving what was a traditional hunter safety courses into more of an outdoor safety opportunities for folks. And that would include things like how to build a fire. What do you do if you get lost in the woods? What do you need to pack when you go on the trails? Like, what are the things to think about to make sure you have with you when you're safe? So we are moving and trying to incorporate all those kind of things in our whole suite of education programs.
Okay, we have a question from the NYA Panthers for both of you. We'll start with you, Dana. What qualities have you transferred from being a high school student or a student athlete to your current position?
I think teamwork and communication are the two biggest. When I was in school playing football or on the ski team, working with other people, identifying how to make other people successful, that teamwork is carried through really well. And Judy said it earlier, learning how to speak to people, learning how to speak to groups of people. I did that through sports and school, and that's been a big deal for me.
Sure, and I can I'll follow up on that and say, a lot of people in my world sort of like, oh, you have 130 or 300 people that work for you, and I say, no, I work for 300 people. I have 300 people that I work for. My job is to take care of those people, to make sure that they feel inspired, motivated, protected, safe, welcome, valued. And so it's the same when I was on sports in high school. Like, you worked together as a team. Everybody is important. Everybody plays a role in the success of the team or the agency. And I really believe that that's a key to success for anybody in any field, is to be respectful, be nice, value your coworkers or your friends, your teammates, be supportive and helpful. And as Dana said, communication is going to be really important for everyone moving forward. But I think those are probably what I learned most from my high school years.
Those who have joined us late, we're talking with Dana Bullen, who's the president of Sunday River, and Judy Camuso, who's the commissioner of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife. And Judy, I want to ask this of you first, but I mean, you're the commissioner, you're the big dog, but you're in the governor's cabinet.
Mhm.
You work for the governor. You're lucky because your governor, knows a little bit about the outdoors. She fly fishes a little bit. She grew up in Farmington.
Yep.
She's got a little bit of that edge. Sometimes we've had governors that have not been as sensitive to inland fisheries and wildlife. So what's your relationship like with the governor in terms of when do you try to call her and say, all right, this is important, or don't worry about that? How's
Yep.
that communication work?
Yeah, so I am so lucky, Bill. Governor Mills is actually, she's a pretty active outdoor person. We just went ice fishing with her a couple weeks ago. Just last weekend, we went and hiked around the bluff walk down in Scarborough. I invite her out a lot and she comes 100% of the time. I think I've been on 4 or 5 different fly fishing weekends or trips or trout fishing. And she's come bird hunting a couple times with us. So she really, the governor really values our outdoor and natural resources and understands the economic impact that they have, particularly in rural communities. She's hugely supportive of all the outdoor industries. And so it's been hugely beneficial for me because when there is an issue, I can just, email her or call her and say, hey, this is really important. How do you feel about this or that? Like when the pandemic hit, I was immediately thinking like, oh, we're going to have to do something. People are going to need to get outside. So I just texted her and I said, are you okay if we eliminate the need to have a fishing license for the next 6 weeks? Let's remove that barrier so people can get outside. People are going to be like kind of panicky, a little scared right now. Let's get them outside, get them up, interacting in nature and give them some tools to get outside safely. And she's like, absolutely, let's do an executive order. We'll take care of it this week. So she's super supportive of all those activities. I don't, I can't imagine having a more supportive boss. So we're really lucky.
Dana, you work for a corporation. You're the big cheese up there, but how does your company work? And what's the difference between communicating, say, up and down? I don't like up and down, but you know what I mean?
I do. It's been about 15 years now. We've worked on servant leadership at Sunday River, where I came to understand that my job was to serve everybody that worked for us. In saying that, I also need to serve our owners. The good news for us is that Stephen Kircher and his family have owned ski resorts for more than 50 years. When he comes to Sunday River, he skis with us. In the summer, he plays golf. It makes it really easy working for people who understand what you're going through. But my job is required to take care of people in both directions, and it's really enjoyable.
We see some students in the regular chat kind of talking back and forth about what they hunt for, what they do, and some are interested in, hunting they never have. What would you, Judy or Dana, give to advice for people who are just starting out in your prospective activities, whether it's hunting or fishing or skiing or golf or whatever it is?
I lost you. I seem to be like on some kind of poll here. Let me see if I can exit that. I was trying to answer the questions while we were talking. So I think if you're just getting into hunting, I would highly recommend spring turkey hunting. It's really interactive. There's a high success rate. Even if you don't have the opportunity to take a turkey, usually you see some and they're calling and chattering at you. So I really like that. I love animals and I love dogs in particular. So I love upland game hunting because you use dogs. So you've got dogs and they're working and they're outside, and it's actually really social because the dogs are loud and noisy. You don't have to be really quiet. And so you can talk to the person that you're hunting with or the people, and the dogs are interacting and you're interacting with the dogs. And then on the opposite side, I really like deer hunting because it's a chance to be sort of still and quiet in the woods. And I make a point to leave all my devices, at home or in my backpack. And it's a chance to just be, silent and to observe nature. And this fall, I was out outside of the Greenville area. And while I was deer hunting, I had this great experience with the pine marten, which is a rather unusual mammal in the woods up north. And it came in and interacted and, sort of was curious and was like kind of playing with me and trying to figure out, not playing with me, but it was like, trying to figure out what I was and climbing up and down on the tree. And, I left that day and people were like, did you see any deer? And I'm like, no, but I spent a half hour watching a pine marten. I mean, it's so exciting. So I think all the various forms of hunting have different attributes that I like. Never had a moose permit, so I've not been moose or bear hunting yet, but.
Judy, you love animals, but you hunt. How can you
Yeah.
justify that? That's a question that
Oh,
always
sure.
comes up.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, hunting is a way that we manage populations. So we are, as biologists, we have an opportunity to determine when populations are at a level where you can harvest them and still maintain healthy populations. So we know that the public really wants healthy wildlife population levels. So you want animals that are prevalent, you can see them, but you don't want them starving to death. You don't want there to be too many of any one species. So hunting is the way that we control the population for many species. So I like to eat meat. And so I really like to be able to harvest my own meat. I like to know how it killed. I like to know that it died ethically, quickly, relatively, humanely. I think these animals live their whole life in the wild. They don't live in a pen. They live their whole life outside, running around in the woods. And I think it's the ultimate way to get protein myself. And I do it. So I'm not, preaching from some faraway place. I hunt almost every season that I can. So I really support it. I think it promotes good outdoor activities. It promotes a connection with nature. You have to be observant. You have to pay attention. It takes time and patience. And you get a really good product that when I eat it, I'm like, I harvested this myself. It's so empowering.
Dana, how about you? What would you say to someone who's like, hey, I've never skied or snowboarded. I'm thinking of getting into this.
There is a number of introductory programs, Travis, and as somebody said earlier, young folks are so adept at getting online and searching things. There's a number of ways to get into this economically. There are a number of ways to get into it at smaller resorts as you work your way up to larger resorts. And I think you'll find that the skiing population is very welcoming. They want more people to be, to enjoy the sport that they love so much. There are easy ways to get involved, and a number of those different ways.
Judy, are you seeing what kind of hunting is growing and what kind of hunting isn't growing? Same with fishing.
Yeah, so I would say right now, interest in deer hunting was kind of through the roof last fall, and likewise small game. So actually, the moose hunting permits were up as well for the applicants. And bear hunting was up a little bit, not tremendously. Bear hunting requires a little bit more of a pretty significant time commitment. Moose hunting in Maine is like the ultimate. It's hard. It's a lottery system, so people wait their whole lifetime to get a moose permit in some scenarios. So that opportunity isn't as available for everyone. I think some of the things for fishing that are the opportunities that are changing, and the trends are changing a little bit. And historically, people were pretty avid trout and salmon anglers, and now we see a lot of more people, myself included, that really like fishing some of the warm water species like crappie and bass. There's a lot of action. It's active. There's a lot of opportunity. I love to eat crappie myself. So I think some of those warm water fish are increasing. I think actually smallmouth bass is the #2 preference in the state. And that's a pretty dramatic change from 20 years ago where trout and salmon surely would have been the top 2 contenders.
I imagine your worlds intersect quite a bit. What happens like when a moose or a bear decides, hey, I think this ski slope's a pretty nice place to hang out for a while?
It happened last winter. We had a mother and two cubs that woke up earlier, came out of hibernation earlier than we had expected. And so for about 2 weeks until they found their way out of the resort, ski patrol would identify where they were and close the trails to keep our folks away from them. Number one, for the skiers' safety, but number two, to make sure that the mama bear and the two cubs were comfortable as they meandered their way out of the resort. We do have moose that wander onto the golf course every now and then, but we're in the wilderness and we're part of it, and that's what makes us really special.
And go ahead,
ahead, Bill.
Travis, I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say, Judy, how often do you guys get called into, whether it's Sunday River or any other outdoor activity area, to kind of deal with wildlife issues?
Sure, we get those calls pretty regularly. Many of them are in southern Maine, and mostly we respond when there's a human health concern. So if there's like a moose or a large animal in proximity to say 295 or 95, where they may cause an accident, and then we would send our biological staff in and hopefully could tranquilize that animal and move it. That is kind of a last resort. In places like up north or at a ski mountain, we would really lobby to do just what Dana's crew did and try and let nature take its course and let those animals kind of move off. We have on rare occasions tranquilized. I think a couple years ago was at Carabasset Valley. I think we had to tranquilize a female bear with a couple cubs, and we move them and we tranquilize them and we move them to a new den on the same property and let them stay there where they were kind of off the cross-country ski trail. So it depends. We handle those case by case, but in general, we try to let nature take its course and adopt the philosophy that Dana just articulated so nicely, that we live in Maine, wildlife is part of our background, and we try to encourage people to learn how to live with the wildlife in their area.
Travis, the other way we interact with the warden service is, unfortunately, we have people ski out of bounds once in a while here at the resort, and the wardens are so gracious. They have all the equipment from snowmobiles to the backcountry equipment, and they always come and help and assist in that, and very professional, and we appreciate it.
Yeah,
I dealt with out-of-bounds skiers quite a bit in my Killington days. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Right.
And I don't want to say anything to the kids, but usually those who ski out of bounds and get lost, they kind of drain down into the same place. And, and you're going to be really embarrassed if you do that. So, you're going to have to, shrug and hang your head and say yep and nope a lot, because, the backside of the mountain is the backside of the mountain, right? It's kind of funny. You're going down and they know where you're going. So do be careful about skiing out of bounds. Any final thoughts about working in the outdoors? So you two are lucky, Dana and Judy.
So lucky. I have the best job in the planet, no doubt. Maybe Dana's second place, but I think folks that work in my agency come to work, just like Dana said, like I don't ever dread coming to work, and I don't think anyone on our staff really does. And it's an opportunity to be outside, to do something that you're passionate about, that you enjoy, that you want to do in your free time. I mean, it's just so amazing. I'm so lucky.
And Bill, I would look at it as blessed. I was blessed to be born in the greatest state in the nation that offers so much. And then I was blessed to get into an industry that allowed me to raise a family in the outdoors, in the mountains, and I've loved every minute of it along the way, and I'd encourage anybody that's interested to get involved as well.
Well, thank you so much. Travis, thank you so much. It's been an informative hour. I mean, I love the outdoors. I was going to make a speech one time, and so I was listening to other speakers going online, and I can't find the guy who said it, but I thought the best idea I heard was to tell graduates, find a hobby and participate at least once a week that gives you as much joy as if your salary doubled. And I thought, man, aren't we lucky to live in Maine, because we have world-class opportunities all seasons right outside our doors here, and do take the effort somehow to put a foot forward, ask someone to help you out. Everybody in the outdoors wants to help other people out there. So do take the initiative to get involved in the great things we have around. Thanks so much for being with us. I got to plug the Maine Sports Hall of Fame. We're giving away five $5,000 scholarships. If you're a senior, check out our scholarship program at Maine Sports Hall of Fame, mshof.com/scholarships. We do an induction ceremony. We do these webinars, and we also do a podcast, Maine Sports Hall of Fame Legends with Bill Green, that's just dropped, where I interview the people who are in the Maine Sports Hall of Fame, such as Dana Bolin. So thank you all for being with us today. Have a wonderful day. Our first spring is here.
Thank you, everybody.